If Red Frogs weren't there for Christian, I think he... I don't know. If Red Frogs weren't there, I don't think Christian would have progressed as far as what he's gotten now. When I was getting ready for schoolies this year, I was digging around in my box just looking for stuff to take down, and I came across this card that Christian wrote me 3 years ago.
For a while, I've had many different weird thoughts about self-harm and so on. 2 days ago, on the 20th of November, you saved my life. You, along with Jono, Maddie, and the rest of the Red Frogs crew who came to my aid, saved me.
We met him in a place where we didn't judge him, we just sought to understand where he was coming from, and we just sought to love on him. We had no preconceived idea of who Christian was or what his behaviour meant, and we just wanted the best for him. And I think he really appreciated the fact that we just accepted him for who he was, and we had the patience to walk through the journey with him as well. And just to give him that encouragement that, yeah, Christian, you're a person of value, your past doesn't define you, and there's always going to be better days ahead. I think he really responded and resonated well with that. I guess we can't take all the glory, but it's definitely at that critical point in his life, it was the defining factor for him, that contact with Red Frogs, and that definitely gave him a positive direction for his future.
Kind of reading that has really brought me back to everything that happened on that day, everything that happened on that week. Reading this, you do see the sincere gratitude that I had for Chris and Jono and Maddie and everyone, all the Red Frogs that helped me on that night. Yeah. Crazy.
The fact that Red Frogs has been around for 20 years and it started with just a small group of people just coming to serve and just to love the community, it just shows that at the heart of Red Frogs and its core, that its mission is to do good and to just love and to help support and safeguard a generation.
And I really believe it takes a generation to change a generation, and if no one stands up and acts now, well, then it's not going to happen.
The Red Frogs crew has created this global movement, and it's helping create a generation and empowering a generation of young people to feel safe, to feel good about themselves, and, you know, live rich, fulfilling lives by using our little red frog.
When I finished school in New South Wales in the early 90s, most of my grade went to Schoolies Week, and I thought, you're all weird. Like, what are you doing? I just went straight to work and was saving to go and study and that kind of stuff, but I didn't know actually what it was until our first year on the ground at Schoolies Week, and I'm like, this is wild. I thought it was not just an odd party here or there, it was not just an odd issue and some violence here or there or people getting hurt. It was en masse, and it was like encouraged, and it was like a large section of the community was making a lot of money off it.
I came down here at the Gold Coast and went, this is nuts. It's like, 30,000 now, and it's the kids hanging off verandas and doing nudie runs past you, and bottles coming off buildings and chairs coming off buildings and just stuff everywhere. And it's just in fights in the Cabell Mall. And then I saw these Japanese tourists that are just flying to the Gold Coast, huddling their kids, as thousands of schoolies are going past them, and they're just freaking out.
I remember we clocked on one night and people were like, you need to get to level 2. It's only a 3-level place. You need to get to level 2. You need to get to level 2. So our team, we start shooting up there and we're like, okay, what are we going to see? And there's like blood up and down the hallway. And then we go out and, the fight had just broken up, but they had like forensic police coming out. Basically a whole bunch of randoms had come into these schoolies' room and they were pushing and shoving, and next minute it just turned into this massive all-in brawl. Started in the room, spread out down the hallway. There were blokes being shipped off to hospital, and this was just a regular night.
The bigger issues or the drug pushers, people that saw a retail opportunity and were pushing substances, pushing violence, taking advantage. The date rapes were predominantly happening by the older members that just came to take advantage of the party goers.
My boys are up in this building, they're running amok, just pre-drinking and getting in all sorts of trouble. And for me, as like the youth worker, I need to be there. So I went to the hotel manager and said, hey, look, I'm a youth worker. You got 400 teenagers in your building. Do you want a hand with this craziness? And they just went, grabbed us and chucked us in, and just loved having extra volunteers in there.
The reactions of the schoolies is pretty interesting. In our first couple of years, it was cynicism.
Because they didn't know who you were. You know, you spent 10 minutes trying to explain who you were.
When you'd knock on a door and they would answer and you'd say hotel chaplaincy.
And that'd be kind of sketchy. They'd be holding back. Who are you guys? You know, when you come to knock on a door where there's obviously a party going on because there's loud music and a beer bottle holding the door open.
You'd repeat yourself, hotel chaplaincy, and they said hotel security, and they would just shut the door in your face. It just so happened that one of the guys had a packet of red and green frogs and was snacking on them. The schoolies saw it and said, you got frogs? I haven't had them for years. Like, you guys remember frogs? And grabbed us by the shirt and peeled us into the room. And that was the first party of the unofficially titled Red Frogs.
That was a definite icebreaker, and I never took it for granted.
It kind of took us by surprise, where we just looked at each other like, are you kidding me? Like, these frogs are actually valuable, like they're worth something. Went through the whole of Surfers Paradise, and in turn just every 7-Eleven, every convenience store we could find, and buying these packs of red and green frogs.
The next year went through 220 kilos, and the next year 440, then 880, then 1.2 tonne. Now 20 tonnes of red frogs we go through. In 17 locations, looking after about 70,000 schoolies, 1,500 volunteers, and we talked to 52,000 in high school education programs. So yeah, it's just gone ballistic, and I guess that the trademark Red Frog became a nickname the schoolies gave us.
Because we would rock up at people's door to give them, you know, to say, hey, we're hotel chaplaincy. Oh, you're the Red Frog crew, come on in. Like, they gave us that name.
Yeah, the frogs! Yeah, the frogs! Yeah, the frogs!
And we finally went with it. We finally surrendered. And so the Red Frog ate all my programs, my uni programs, my board riders, my sports, and schoolies. And so the whole thing's become the Red Frogs Chaplaincy Network. The police back in the day and AMBOs would really struggle with the culture being built in hotel rooms because they're pre-drinking, pre-loading, and they couldn't get access to that. And with the hotel chaplains and the Red Frog crews up there looking after them, that helped change it. But another real significant one was even getting one step back from that in the high schools. And we have an amazing Sarah Carter, one of our original workers. She had a vision for that and saw quickly down here that these kids were coming in blind. They were really naive about some of the dangers. So she thought, if I can get to the high schools, I can warn them about these things.
My first encounter with Red Frogs would have to be during high school when we had our enrichment week, and the Red Frogs will come in and they kind of talk to you about how schoolies is, just like the typical stay away from drugs, always cover your drink.
Never walk home alone, always be with your mate. Don't let Jono sleep it off on the beach. And the amount of times schoolies now don't let their mates sleep off on the beach, but make sure they get them home, and looking after each other is amazing. So a lot of those core messages have been getting through, and it's literally changed so many incidents down here. So the education is one of our key cultural changing tools.
I started to see a huge shift in the culture of schoolies when we started doing the education program in the mid-2000s. I used to love it when you'd rock up and you'd have some schoolies going, hey, Mum made some meals for us and we've got some food in here. We didn't just bring vodka.
Schoolies nowadays, people come with trolley loads of food and maybe an esky of grog on top. Back when I first started, people would come with like trolley loads of grog and a bag of food on top.
We prepare the schoolies for schoolies, but then also we prepare them for the interaction that they're going to have with the Red Frog crew when they get to schoolies. So we don't want them getting to schoolies going, who are these people and why are they offering us candy? We want them to trust us, to know us, to have an understanding of what we do and why we're there, because then that bridge has already been made and the Red Frog crew can come straight in and we're trusted and known. I went to a school the other day where the teacher said, we didn't think that we'd have room for you in our schedule, but the students created such an uproar that we had to make space.
One of our great privileges of interacting with these schoolies is that we are the first response that they have. And when mum and dad aren't around, there's often some questions that come up. We have schoolies ring up asking how to use the washing machine, we're needing a new toothbrush, running out of toilet paper.
One unit ring up and goes, "Oh, is this the Red Frog hotline?" I said, "Yeah, mate." He goes, "Oh, we've got an emergency." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "I've run out of toilet paper, can you guys bring some over?" I said, "Mate, Red Frogs, are pretty generous people. We don't go that far, mate." He goes, "Oh, no, it's okay. I found a loaf of bread," then hangs up. In all that, you get so many more serious calls, and guys deal with hundreds of alcohol intoxications, and unfortunately a few drug ones too, that unfortunately is increasing a bit more with the young people really experimenting with drugs, and drugs becoming cheaper because of the cost-benefit thing for them. And it's really, really disturbing, some of those trends, but it's great that the teams can be there, and the call centre is the epicenter of Red Frogs at schoolies.
I headed into schoolies in a really bad state. Me and my friend just started basically getting really, really messed up by about the second night. We discovered pills on the third day, and basically from that point on we were buying multiple pills a day each. No matter what we did, how messed up we were, the frogs were always there for us.
The messaging and the support, the response the kids have when they see Red Frogs has been phenomenal. And what that shows is that the kids are taking the messaging on board and they've developed a trust. And with that trust comes the safety of the kids. They're walking home when they're not feeling safe. They're speaking to the Red Frogs when they're feeling a bit down. All those things have a build-up effect, which can be dealt with early and promptly and professionally. And that alleviates the issues in the later areas with regard to police, fire, ambulance and the hospitals.
Red Frogs couldn't operate here in isolation. We don't operate in Bali in isolation either, but it's working with Australian Consulate, it's working with the hospitals, with the hotels, with the police and all the other, kind of groups in Bali that actually make it a safe place. I remember the very first night that we ever ran Red Frogs in Bali. We had a phone call to our hotline number there, and it was these schoolies we'd met earlier in the night, and they're like, "Look, my friend's passed out." We ran down, we found them in this lane, and we found this girl that's unconscious. And I rang the hospital and said, "Can you please send an ambulance? We've got a girl that's unconscious." And the response I got from the hospital was like, "No, we can't send an ambulance. Put her on a motorbike and get her to the hospital." And I'm going, no, you don't understand. She is unconscious. Can you send an ambulance? And so we quickly discovered that, we had to find a whole new way of operating in Bali because of the infrastructure, the things we take for granted here in Australia, where you ring 000 and you've got an ambulance there in a couple of minutes. We had to find ways of using taxis and other ways of just, helping someone get basic first aid support.
I think it takes a lot of intentionality. And so we guard that brand pretty fiercely. We want to make sure that we do protect the trust that we've worked hard now over 2 decades to build up.
The mindsets and the attitudes of everybody involved has changed, and I don't think that's been by accident either. I'm talking, by the way, by everyone. I'm talking about the students, hotel management, security, police. If I'm honest, back when I first started, we used to have to fight with all of those guys to be able to get access to these students. They were weary of who we were. They were questioning, why would you guys do this?
Not really knowing very much about the Red Frogs in 2006 and 7, I think I was a little sort of, wow, what are these people doing? I then sort of obviously found out through talking that they're a Christian organisation that really had the next generation of leaders and workers in our community at paramount importance.
Red Frogs, I think I would have been first introduced to them the first year that we had the schoolies come to Chevron. Andy came and introduced himself, and Andy's been around for a while, and just explained to us how they will assist us and how, the organisation runs with the helpline and everything. I wasn't sure the first year whether it would be a good thing or a bad thing, but I couldn't do without them. And that's the honest truth.
Once they saw that by having teams in the building, property damage decreased and less kids were hanging off the verandas and people that were sexually assaulted were getting assistance earlier and the suicide ideations were being cut off early so they wouldn't go through with it, and seeing the role the teams played, they quickly changed and went, oh, no. In fact, here's a free room in our resort for a whole week for all your workers. And so as soon as they sort of caught, hey, this is actually about the safety of these young people, that that are in our buildings, they quickly were very generous and really making it possible for our teams to be in the right place at the right time. A live-in team is 3 times more likely to get to something just in time, not just after time. And that's really what Frogs is. It's a fence at the top of the cliff instead of the ambos at the bottom. We want to get there just in time, not after time.
My wife called me and said, oh, we've got a suicide ideation. We were 1 floor away, able to get to that room within like 5 minutes of their friends calling and being a presence in that room and being able to ask the difficult questions that young people might not know what to ask. You know, we'd had training from ambulance, we've had training from Department of Communities.
We had a girl in our building sexually abused. Their friend had got locked in a room with this guy who was a toolie. Straight away we ran back up, grabbed the security guard, grabbed the Frogs who were in the building. They were just able to like calm her down, calm everyone down, get the facts. They called the police, the ambulance. They were referring her to like support groups and counsellors straight away. They were helping her out so much, and I don't think if Red Frogs weren't there, I don't think I'd be here today, and I don't think that girl would be here either. Like, so thanks to them, honestly, they saved lives last year, and every year they save lives.
We try to be in those centres of activity where you think if something's going to go wrong, this is where we need to be so we can serve a generation and hopefully prevent a life from being lost.
When you walk around the streets of Surfers Paradise at this time of the year and you're wearing a Red Frogs t-shirt, it's like respect, total respect, because of the price that people have paid to be here. Price that they pay every night when they're wiping vomit up and cleaning someone up and taking or walking them home if they've, you know, or just sitting down and talking to those that are lonely and going through heartache, or just asking questions. The young people say, why do you do this? Like, I see their brains ticking over. What? Why are you doing this?
Seeing how supportive they were of me, my friend, everyone in the building, how they were able to help that girl, just all of that. I really wanted to be a Red Frog and help the younger generation through anything that they're going through and be the light in their life that the Red Frogs were in mine.
One of my favourite things about Red Frogs is seeing people, including myself, grow up through the process, and not just grow up as self-focused individual, but grow up as someone aware of our ability to influence people around us in a really positive sense.
I think the reputation of Red Frogs is not so much about the brand and hype of around that name as much as it's the values that sit under that are universal.
So Schoolies is really just the launching pad for Red Frogs. It's our first introduction to the young people. They get to know us, what we're about, eat lots of pancakes, fall in love with the Red Frog lolly. It's a beautiful thing. That's not where it stops for us. In about 2 months' time, the majority of these young people will be going to university and will be there.
Uni was the first moment I moved away from home. So it was huge. I was wondering, was it going to fit in? Would people like me? And I moved straight on to college. So you're stuck in a house with 12 people that you have to get along to, you have to chat to. And it was really nerve-wracking. And I mean, the moment you get in the door when you arrive, it's a drinking event that's planned for that night.
Parties is where everybody hung out, it's where you made friends, it's where you met people from other colleges.
I saw the party culture up on Uni Reses and was just blown away. It was like, this is like Schoolies week, but it's like all year in our backyard. And then we just went up and started helping out in a uni party one night and looking after blokes in parties.
These guys would come and cook us pancakes and bring us free donuts and play Monopoly Deal with us on a Monday night when they really didn't have to be there if they didn't want to be.
So when the universities would ask us why we were doing what we were doing, the easy answer was because we love people, we care about them. We just want to do what we can to help people where they need it. And if it's as easy as standing here giving out glasses of water, being a listening ear, making sure somebody gets home safely, then that's what we'll do. And as a uni student as well, I wanted to be at these parties. I just didn't want to be drinking till I was vomiting in the gutter because I just wasn't really into it. So it was a great avenue as well for me to be there, be amongst it, still have a great time. We'd get in there and dance.
It's always great to have the support of the Red Frogs, particularly with some of our bigger events. We're known for our bunker. It's an alcoholic event, so having Red Frogs along to support, particularly with hydration, the frogs, of course. the fairy bread, all of that's really important as a way of just having the night run efficiently and smoothly and to reduce the impacts of alcohol in particular.
And then we went from 17 halls of residence to 143 within 8 months. And then from there went to New Zealand, over into Canada, UK, through parts of Europe, and now 9 countries.
We started getting calls from really around the country saying, hey, can you come and launch Red Frogs here? And so I think it was Christchurch was our first kind of other major city that got on board. So they had the major event down there called Tea Party, which is like their big, the whole city shuts down, big kind of drinking day, big party day, and they have a few major events on. And so they put on the university website, hey, if you register your party, Red Frogs will rock up and cook you pancakes. And I think in the first 3 hours, they had something like 36 parties register. And so they actually had to close the website because we were like, we can't do that. We don't even have a team yet. We haven't even launched this thing yet. We need to get some volunteers. And so hired some trailers, bolted some barbecues on the back of them, and just kind of drove around, pull up, start the barbecues, try pump out pancakes. And we just hit as many parties as we could that first day, and then went to the actual gigs in the afternoon and just hung out with people. And the response from the police, the university, the students was unbelievable. They just loved it. And the cool thing there is it was actually the lowest day of crime the police have had with that party day in years. And, you know, obviously we can't correlate that back to just pancakes, but again, we love the fact that for our teams down there, they were like, man, we can see what just doing something so simple can do. Before long, it snowballed into doing things like safe zones in the CBDs of the city. So around O Week, when all the students come in, mid kind of like pub crawl or club crawl, the students could come hang, and, you know, we'd find literally hundreds of students a night coming past to hang out for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. We'd even have groups of students on their way into the clubs, stop off at the Red Frogs, stay there for kind of like 4 hours playing cards, then just go home, never actually making it to the club. And they're like, man, this is so much better. And so it started to get this kind of national reputation for being a great way to engage with young people and making a serious difference in the cities.
That's what I love about Red Frogs, is the fact that it's got involved and has actually slowly changed the culture into something a whole lot more safe.
I had a look at our sporting culture in Australia and realised, you know, there's some really young blokes in these squads that get paid quite a bit of coin, but then you see them in the papers, you know, getting in trouble and doing wrong things and just getting into all sorts of dramas. I thought, you know, we really need to look after these blokes. They're just young blokes with a lot of profile, a lot of opportunity, and sometimes can make some, you know, pretty dumb decisions. We started with our Red Frog program, just helping out individuals and getting around them and mentoring these young guys through into how to make smarter decisions. So we started doing that for squads, and then we started doing it for international teams when they toured. And I think through our Red Frog program, we look after close to 574 sporting people in a year. So the sports side of what we do is really big, because sport's a big part of Aussie psyche. It's a big part of our Aussie culture, and we need more good role models. We need good examples in our papers of our sporting personalities.
Every year I've had an experience with the Red Frogs, so you know that comes from dropping off coffees, that comes from dropping off lollies, Red Frogs especially. Barbecues, the old monthly barbecues always been good, and just that, you know, how kind they are. They're just genuine people. They always put other people first, and you know what better people to be associated with. And they've helped a lot of the Reds boys out, that's for sure.
We had quite a big campaign about sort of knowing your limits when you drink, but we were looking for something more active and a way that we can show our fans that we do care about them. I find that the Frogs are such a positive addition to our team. Our security manager says that they're the best tool that he has to make sure that we don't need to be relying on police and security. Love seeing Frogs do sort of water sculling competitions with people. And then the icy poles are absolute genius, because if someone's taking, you know, an icy pole, they're stopping to drink their beer for 10, 15 minutes, and then they've just eaten something sweet, so beer all of a sudden isn't that appealing. All the Frogs who come to the cricket are volunteers, and that blows me away every single time, that there's people out there who want to give up their day to make sure our fans are having a great day.
Festival owners are concerned about the welfare of their patrons, and so I saw that the answer we had and what we're doing in this youth culture fitted into music festivals, and then organisers saw that and got us in, and has been a real part of a lot of Aussie festivals with our Festival Frog Cruise now.
Managers were coming to Red Frog saying, hey look, there's a gap in our response. There are people dying at our music festivals. All we have are first aid who are reactive. We've seen what you've done at festivals and your brilliant service of being proactive out in our festival grounds. Hey, can you come and fill that gap for us?
Some of the organisations that are now
bringing us into the planning meetings and going, what do we need to think of? And gives us a platform as an organisation then to speak into care of minors and care of patrons. And so we can be part not only of being on the ground on the day, but in the planning leading into it.
Our Red Frog team had just come out of the medic tent where we had based and just were doing a proactive roaming search around the festival and come across this girl who had actually passed out face first in the mud, and saw her alone and not breathing, and reefed her out of the mud and took her quickly back to first aid where they were able to perform CPR and save her life.
Red Frogs grows quicker than I can keep up with. It's quite amazing to see it unfold. It's beautiful to see different people get involved and really take on areas that they're passionate about. Juzzy and Andrea with board riders so faithfully. That has grown up out of almost nothing to something that's really amazing.
I wanted to be able to reach the kids wherever they were at in their skateboarding ability, wherever they were at in life. We had a plan about it and we started to do more community, more country town skateboarding trips, and that was something to just fall in love with, you know, like, yeah, you're at a skate park and you're hanging out with these kids, which they rock up with no shoes, some of them, you know, and you try your best to teach them a little bit about skateboarding. And one kid will have a skateboard, which is, he's taken it everywhere in life, you can tell, you know, and it's almost falling apart. And to give him a brand new skateboard and, man, see the smile on his face, eh? Like, my mission now is to go to a skate park and on a Red Frog board riders trip, and I look out for that 15-year-old Juzzy, you know. I know he's gonna be there. Coming from a broken home, getting married was the toughest thing. I just want to tell this 15-year-old kid, you know, you can do it, man. Like, life's crap now, but it's gonna get better, no matter what. Like, but then to be able to tell him, like, about my faith. Just when you look in their eyes and it's looking in the mirror. That useless wooden toy, you know, that's my in with these kids, you know, to be able to tell them life's gonna be good.
You know, 20 years ago, Andy came down to look after his group of boys and checking up on them on their schoolies week. I don't think he had any concept of what this would become. But at the same time, I don't think we've hit our peak.
It's pretty impressive that Andy's running Red Frogs, a now global network. A guy who had a skateboard and a feral mullet and just sort of got out there.
Coming from New Zealand, he's like everything you think of when you think like Aussie bloke.
I'm so grateful for Andy Goulet and the impact that he's had in my life, in my friends' lives, and in the lives of countless young people. He really is incredible.
And I see that he gets the most joy from still getting to those hotel rooms like he did 20 years ago on day one. So he's an amazing guy with an amazing amount of energy. He's got an amazing family that allows him to go out and do what he does. Yeah, I can just see Andy doing this for the rest of his days.
We wouldn't be doing what we're doing today without him. And we're thankful for his example.
There's been a lot of young people who have really been able to dream again after encountering Red Frogs and the service we provide and the encouragement. These aren't just schoolies, they're our future leaders, future politicians and doctors and leaders of our country.
People are always coming up to me saying, "You saved my life. You saved my brothers or sisters' lives. We love you guys so much." It wasn't me personally that did that, but I know that it was a Red Frogger.
The frog reputation is what was launched here in schoolies and in Australia has definitely helped New Zealand establish. The fact that they've been able to look to it and go, hey, these guys have not just done these things, but they've done it with longevity. They've been consistent. They've done it before they had funding. They've done it before they had support, and they'd keep doing it if they didn't have those things. And so I think that reputation of, man, you can be trusted, you genuinely do love individuals and people is relational, and we're relational whether it's to a mayor of a city or whether it's to, you know, the 17-year-old vomiting on the side of the road. the relationship's saying we just want to know the person.
They're always there and they're always there to help. And I just want to say a massive thank you for all of the volunteers who decide they want to take the time out of their lives to go do that. Because without them, I feel like it would be a lot more of a different atmosphere everywhere, because they're such amazing people.
If Red Frogs weren't around, it'd be a little bit scary, to be honest. I know the conversations I've had with young people, and if I wasn't able to do that, I don't know who would have done it. I don't know where these people would go if they'd have that hope. I just know I'm glad that someone's spoken life into them, that someone's been prepared to listen to them.
And I look back at 20 years and look to how does that help me think about the future. It makes me go, anything is possible. You know, we'll be strategic, we'll use the wisdom that we have, but ultimately we'll just keep turning up and we'll just keep saying yes.